Hey, awesome ones. Welcome to my studio. I am taking a delightful moment from seeing clients and get to chat with you here in a Bliss Talk. So, welcome to my studio. I am grateful that you are here with me. Loving the client work, really spending a lot of time with folks, diving into really the content of this Bliss Talk, which is the oneness, aligning with all four dimensions of your sources of wisdom, of your human experience. And consciousness design is an approach that I have been using for over 20 years with clients in circles at retreats. And it is really based on the foundation that all four dimensions of our human experience are sources of wisdom. And we do live in a culture that privileges the cognitive, our mind. And with that being said, that is a powerful source of wisdom, the cognitive. But we also experience emotion, have heart. We also experience somatic wisdom, the wisdom of our bodies. And we also experience energistic wisdom, so our intuition, or these other awarenesses in this consciousness matrix that bring us information. And in our culture, we are really taught that the only wisdom that we can really rely upon is the wisdom of our cognition, the wisdom of our mind. So consciousness design really is built upon the foundation of honoring the four dimensions of the human experience and the wisdom that comes through from all four of those dimensions equally, with consistent reverence. And so what I want to offer you today on this live, in this Bliss Talk, is the awareness that you can access all four of those sources of wisdom through your awareness, your attention, your intention, and make more confident decisions. Be more in alignment with your yes energy. Not question things as much, feel more centered in your inspired action. And that's what consciousness design is all about. It's about the applied experience of taking this wild ride that is our human experience and the mystery of it all, and really bringing forth our inspired action through honoring our yes energy. And how we tap into that is through those four dimensions of the human experience and our awareness that comes through each of those channels. So what I'd love to offer you as well today is that the reason I am here is because I am so incredibly passionate about consciousness design as a life path. And in fact, it's how I live. It's the practice that is a sacred practice for me every day. It's a perspective. It's a framework for action. It's truly arms wide around and receptiveness to the complete human experience. And we have a lot of different methods out there, whether they're somatics or psychological or deeply intuitive or very, cognitive in terms of planning. All of those are great too. And consciousness design invites you to recognize the nexus, that really being present in the center of all of that wisdom and aligning with it is truly a source of power, and honoring all of the information that's coming through this consciousness matrix. All we are is energy, and we can tap into it all with attention and intention. and practice. So I am passionate about getting this information out into the world. It's a miracle that we can be chatting with each other across screens in whatever your ever present now is, which is so cool for me that you can be curious in the middle of the night and you're part of the planet and get this mind food, this particular Bliss Talk. So that is why I'm here. And I want to share with you the reasons why, starting with the reasons why we aren't taught or we aren't encouraged to access 3 of the 4 dimensions of wisdom, of information, wisdom available to us in our human experience. And we live in a culture, as I mentioned, that privileges the cognitive. Logical, linear, from point A to point B, prove it to me. Absolutely. Okay, sure. That wisdom has a place, without question. In fact, I feel like that's sort of where I live. And one of the pieces of the puzzle that I often will play with clients is, where do you think you live? Do you feel like you live in the cognitive, the emotional, the physical, or the energistic? And we tend to really privilege the cognitive because that's how we are successful out in our culture. And that's great. Again, this isn't a pushback against cognitive wisdom being a source of wisdom or cognitive knowledge being a source of wisdom. What this is a recognition of is that we're leaving 75% of our sources of wisdom without regard. We are leaving wisdom, knowledge, information, unattended, unregarded, because we've been taught not to trust those sources of wisdom. And so my invitation to you is to recognize that our heart, our emotion, the emotions that we experience are in fact sources of wisdom that we can tune into, we can feel into, listen to, regard, and factor in to our decisions of what feels most aligned for us. And we can also listen to our bodies and how our bodies speak. Oftentimes we're getting this information as we are tuning into decisions. Should I buy this house? Should I take this job? How am I vibing with this person on this date? How is this creative process feeling for me? And we'll get wisdom in our bodies. We might feel constricted. We might feel breathless. We might feel tension in parts of our bodies, or we might feel really peaceful and relaxed. And that is wisdom as well. And how you interpret it and how you decide and find meaning in it opens you up to feeling more aligned in that decision. And the last dimension is the dimension of our energistics, or our primal, or what I'm calling these days our neo-primal wisdom, which is the feeling of intuition on all of its levels, the feeling of neo-primal wisdom, meaning in this digital world, in this quantum world, we are interconnected and we will get hits of wisdom and we don't know where they come from. We're not sure. We can't pinpoint the cause from A to B. So this acausal, non-local information is still wisdom. And what I want to offer you is, I'm not suggesting that we take that cognitive or mental or mind-based wisdom and throw it out the window. In fact, let's build on it. Let's reclaim the wisdom of our complete and complex human experience and filter it through us. Filter it through our yes energy. Filter it through our essence to really tune into and tap into our own awareness of what's aligned for us. And what I want to invite you to recognize is you're likely doing this in bits and pieces already. If this isn't part of your practice, if consciousness design and tapping into your emotional wisdom, your somatic wisdom, or your neoprimal wisdom, your energy, the energy that we feel, the read the room kind of energy, that we're probably doing that incidentally already, many of us at least. And so I would invite you first to simply pay attention. Are you heeding your emotional wisdom? Oh, this brings me down. This brings me down, and I don't want to do this anymore. What I will offer is I'm not suggesting that that wisdom is the only wisdom that you tap into. If something's bringing you down, then sometimes we have to tap into that cognitive wisdom and say, you know what though? Right now I got to pay my bills. And so I am going to start to move this energy, this emotional energy, and I'm going to partner it with my cognitive wisdom. I'm also going to start to listen to my body. I'm going to listen to my energy, my neoprimal wisdom, my wisdom that I don't know where it's coming from, but it's there, and start to weave all of that together. And a piece of this puzzle that is important for all of us to recognize that you may be doing this incidentally, and also remembering that we are sovereign. A big part of consciousness design and this life path is the sovereignty imperative, which simply states that we are here centered in making hopefully inspired choices and taking action because we are choosing to do that. Every choice we make shapes the world. This is where I want to recognize that we are not all in that position on this planet. And I really want to honor that. And those of us who have that privilege of consciousness design to recognize that we can move with our inspired action and our aligned choices, I recognize that as a reverence and a doubling down of that is even more why I honor my sovereignty. And so I want to offer that from that perspective. So remembering the sovereignty imperative, we get to make those choices. So you might do an assessment, an inventory of all of the wisdom coming from all four dimensions of your human experience, your mind, your heart, your body, and your energy. And you still get to decide how you want to move forward. You still get to decide what action you want to take. So the invitation here is to filter all of that wisdom through our discernment and move in a way that is refining of the awareness of our cognitive wisdom, our emotional wisdom, our body or somatic wisdom, and our energistic wisdom, that we start to slow into it. We start to attune. We start to recognize how this wisdom is registered in our in this, we're an antenna for energy here. That's what this bio body is, this meat suit. And so, and this mind and this heart and this emotion, we are here to gather and register this information, attune to it, and make sovereign choices. We're not being pushed from behind or using force in any way in these decisions. We're being drawn forward with the drive of our power, our centered power. And so that's the piece of the puzzle that is so important to recognize. Is there's also an element called the sovereignty paradox, which means we can make choices that aren't aligned for us over and over again. I certainly know I do that. I certainly know I make choices and go, I did that again. I did that again. Okay. In my sovereignty, I made a choice that moved me in a direction that wasn't my intention. We all do it. So recenter, bring self back to that nexus of all four of those dimensions of the human experience and really tap into that wisdom. What I will offer about all of that is the recognition of a couple of things. This is a countercultural stance for using your power, for moving the energy of your power. And what I want to offer you is there may be pushback. I certainly know that is the case for me. It's more than once that I've had clients, friends, colleagues say, it's pretty risky to follow your emotion. It's pretty risky to just listen to your body. It's pretty risky to completely follow this neoprimal flow of intuition or energistics. And I will offer, I personally think it's risky to leave all of that wisdom on the table. I feel ultimately that's what leaves us in a space of wondering. That leaves us in a space of feeling off center and off kilter, making choices in which we don't feel confident or decisive because we're overriding our body's wisdom. We're overriding our intuition. We might even be overriding our cognitive. And so ultimately, what I offer to you is when we're heeding all of those sources of wisdom, it feels different. It feels more complete. It feels more ultimately like us. It feels more like we have refined a self-intimacy in such a way that we deeply know how to access that wisdom. And the decisions I really want to offer to you, they're not decisions that are right or wrong. We're not telling the future. We're not forecasting. We're not collapsing the wave into the particle. We're open to all possibility and moving at the pace of inspiration and attunement and focus. And that will feel different. And it takes practice. So my invitation to you when you are feeling into this experience, feeling into the awareness of the oneness of this wisdom, that we can weave this beautiful tapestry of wisdom from all four of these dimensions of our experience. And it does take practice. It will require us to push back and have a countercultural stance to say, yeah, I followed my intuition completely from start to finish. It was completely nonlinear. It might have been even irrational, but it felt aligned for me. And so I am moving in that direction. And what I offer is it can feel very efficient. I have clients often who will say, I didn't know it could be this easeful. I had no idea, because we're all of that wisdom is kind of wrestling itself. And so when we actually attune and slow into centering into it, again, we are simply gathering our comprehensive wisdom. We're honoring and revering all of these sources of wisdom. And we're still sovereign. We can make whatever choice we want, even if it is a cognitively overridden choice or an emotional choice or an intuitive choice or the choice that our body wants. And then we'll feel the feedback loop and we'll notice, can I refine this process even further by tapping into listening to my body, heeding my emotion, and recognizing my neoprimal and energistic or intuitive wisdom. And what I would offer, hi, Neela, thank you for the question. Can I offer how you I'm going to say tap into or still into the wisdom when your mind is clouded? Such an important question. And what I will offer is, again, I want to be very clear. If this is new to you, then one place to start is very slow and relaxed breathing, centered breathing in such a way that you come into your body. I also like to notice my heartbeat. Our breath and our heartbeat are our unique dances with this multiverse, and become present first and foremost. We do live in a culture that moves at such a pace that this can be very challenging. So having a meditative practice, even if it's simply breathing and either soft gaze or closing down your eyes to just notice, is an excellent place to start. And what I will offer is it's non-goal oriented. It is truly sensory. It is truly just tapping into what we are experiencing and then noticing and deciding what we want to do with that information. And so I do want to honor that if we are feeling stressed or we're feeling constricted, this is going to be a more challenging process. So first and foremost, we're going to bring ourselves into ourself. And I love to start with slow, relaxed breath. I love to start with closing down my eyes or going soft gaze, honoring the moment, and just noticing what comes up. What I will offer is there's a lot of wisdom out there about breath work and about meditation of all different kinds. My invitation to you as you get started with this is to pick what aligns for you and is attuned for you, and don't worry about doing it wrong. You simply dive into your practice and notice how you feel when you are in self and breathing, just being, and then simply noticing the information that's coming through. And what I offer is, again, we're not looking for answers. We're not trying to forecast the future. We are simply noticing first and foremost. As we advance through the practice of consciousness design and get really comfortable with being in a centered state, a slow state, slow living state, even in a few moments of our day, we start to notice that the wisdom gets a bit more obvious, louder. And again, it's information that you'll be filtering through self. It's not the right or wrong answer. And so we're moving this energy to assess meaning, assess how aligned it is with our yes energy. And your answer may be different from my answer. And that's an important piece of the puzzle to recognize as well, that we're all following our own yes energy. And yours is different from mine. And what a gift. That's the reason I'm here doing what I do and you are in the world doing what you do. That's why some of us like to surf, and some of us like to knit, and some of us love to do triathlons, and some of us love to make art and sculpt. Some of us like to skateboard. That's our yes energy. So what I will offer is you following that unique energy starts with certainly being able to slow into the moment. That does allow you to simply notice what's coming through in your mind, in your heart, in your body, and in your neoprimal or intuitive wisdom. And what I will offer is, again, this is simply a start of the practice. This is simply a moment to introduce you to consciousness design and accessing all four dimensions of your human experience as wisdom, honoring each and every one of those sources with the same reverence as our culture does around cognitive wisdom, and really inviting yourself to access your complete wisdom and feeling into it in your sovereignty to decide what your inspired action is. So if you are interested in learning more, you can always reach out to me. I am here. I see folks one-on-one. We sit in circle. We go on retreat. And consciousness design is definitely a journey and not a destination. So my invitation to you is to recognize this life path life path can always be refined, and you make it yours. You are the expert in your experience, and I am here to offer the opportunity to be the experiment, to really find your edge, to learn where you can expand into this newness, and listen to the feedback loop of what it is bringing you in terms of more awareness of aligned wisdom, to then take inspired action, as every choice you make shapes the world. So with that said, I am so grateful for your time and your attention and your intention to be here, and in whatever your ever present now is. And my invitation to you is to also be incredibly inquisitive, curious, gentle with yourself as you start to tap into those other dimensions of your experience that you're less accustomed to accessing. So be patient with yourself, play with it, have a good time. Our yes energy is all about moving the energy toward the frequency of bliss and really honoring that that is our truest essence. It is our birthright. And so my invitation to you is to have a lot of fun with it, play with it, get curious, reach out if I can be of service, of course, and also recognize lastly that, I want to offer that the incredible Audre Lorde shared with us that we've been raised to fear. We've been raised to fear the yes within ourselves. And culture doubles down on that without question. And so my invitation to you is to recognize that the newness of this can make you feel a little bit of static or discomfort. My invitation to you is to push that edge, to challenge yourself, to get curious and really honor the yes within yourself, as Audre Lorde describes. And this will feel countercultural, and welcome to the countercultural life path of consciousness design. So again, I am Krista, bringing you some Bliss Mystic vibe. I'm so grateful that we shared this time together. Have a blast with aligning and with consciousness design, and I look forward to the next time that we are together for a Bliss Talk.